Oh, hello there. You appear to have caught me under the table, where, as you'd know if you were a board gamer, all board games are traditionally kept. Now, you may have been sent here by a friend to kind of get the idea of what board games are actually like. You see, chances are you're probably the kind of person who thinks board gaming is things like Monopoly or Cluedo or Connect 4 or Mousetrap, and there's so much more to the hobby than that. Now, if you have been sent here, I'm going to try and convince you that there really is a board game out there for everyone, and that this hobby isn't just for weirdos. Okay, so let's say you've already done a little bit of research. You kind of know that these games aren't a very good starting point if you're really serious about entering the hobby. Most websites you go to will probably recommend the same 4 or 5 games with maybe a few deviations on that. So really, the ones I want to talk about first are the ones that everywhere else would basically recommend to you. And then I want to show you what board games could be, followed by a few recommendations that we give ourselves. So let's face it, you go out to a high street shop usually, and you'll usually have the same 4 or 5 board games. So essentially I want to dispel the myth straight away that there are only a handful of board games actually available for, say, adults and things like that. Of course, gaming is very much seen as a family thing as well, so you always want a game that you can kind of involve, say, the kids with, and things like that. But first of all, I'm going to start off by talking about what currently is one of the biggest selling board games in the world, Ticket to Ride. Now, again, I don't think you're going to see this in a lot of big retail shops. It still hasn't really caught on as a hobby in, well, in the UK anyway, just yet. Maybe not on the same kind of level as, say, in Europe or the US. So Ticket to Ride is a game where you're going to be building railway lines across America, unless you get one of the other versions of it. There are tons of these available. You can get Ticket to Ride Europe, there's ones for Africa, there's just about name wherever the hell you want, and you're probably going to find a Ticket to Ride version of that game. What you're going to be doing is you're going to be basically building railway routes. At the beginning of the game, you're going to draw secret objectives, which are a very common theme in board games these days. So it's kind of teach you that. And then from there, what you're going to do is you're going to be collecting cards of varying colours. On the map, you'll see that there are various coloured railways, and you're going to be wanting to get sets of cards to be able to build across them. If you're lucky enough, you may even draw some wild coloured cards, which allow you to basically build towards any you want as possible. So it's kind of teaching you the idea of set collecting, spending them to make a route, and trying to build these routes across the map without the other players really knowing what you're trying to do so that they can block you. It's a really good game. It actually holds up even if you are kind of into gaming. I could recommend that all day long. There's a very good reason why everyone says Ticket to Ride is a really good place to start with board gaming. The next one I want to touch on is also a very popular recommendation, Settlers of Catan, or just Catan. It feels a little bit dated now, not necessarily the best of games. However, again, this game is going to teach you a couple of things. Probably the big thing is the idea of trading in the game. Again, it kind of has a little bit of set collecting to it, but that's not really the focus here. On your turn, you're going to be basically trying to get as many resources as possible so you can build roads and settlements. However, in order to get those, you may find you have to start trading with the other players around the table. You may be thinking to yourself, hey, I can trade stuff in Monopoly. It's kind of not the same thing, whereas in Monopoly you're simply buying a property from someone so that you stake the claim there from now on. In Catan, you're trying to trade resources so you can build the things you want to build. So in other words, it won't necessarily have an immediate effect. However, you are kind of bargaining with people in order to get the things you want in order to be able to build your settlement the way you want and score the most points by the end. So that brings us on to a city building game called Carcassonne. This one, you're basically going to be tile laying. So again, there is no dice involved in this game, much like Ticket to Ride. Settlers of Catan does have a little dice play, but it's not roll to move. Roll to move is basically where you roll a dice and then move that number of spaces. It's generally thought of these days as a fairly poor mechanic in board gaming, and really a lot of games have been trying to move away from that in recent years. So games like Snakes and Ladders and things like that are generally looked on quite poorly in the community. Carcassonne is basically, you're going to be placing tiles on a map. You're going to be building settlements, but at the same time, other people are probably going to be competing with you for the same thing. So you're going to be building roads, you're going to be building towns. If you're lucky enough, you'll be building monasteries, which are worth loads of points. And basically, it's all determined by what you're building in kind of a SimCity-ish kind of way, if you're into video games. You're all going to be scoring points on here. It's got a very unique way of playing compared to most most traditional board games, should I say. And generally, it's a really, really good time. But Steve, I hear you say, trains are for nerds. Well, maybe, but there's certainly other things out there, and you shouldn't let theme pull you down with these games. They're still really worth giving a try, especially when you have games like King of Tokyo, which again is very much seen as a game that you may want to give a try before you really get into this hobby. Whole idea is it's a push your luck game, so you are going to be rolling dice in this one, and they play a big part of the game. However, your rolls of the dice are going to kind of determine what you're going to do in your turn, rather than determine how far you're going to move again. So in other words, you're all going to be playing against one another, you're all playing these big monsters, trying to smash up the city, and what you're doing is you're also trying to smash up each other. You're going to be rolling dice, trying to get as many hits on the person who currently occupies Tokyo, and trying to knock them out basically, except when they take damage, they can choose to come out of Tokyo, which is the main place where you're going to be scoring your points. So yeah, you're going to be pushing your luck and seeing how long you can stay in Tokyo before you yield it to another player. It's another really, really interesting concept that if you haven't played these kind of board games before, it's going to be relatively new to you. Again, a lot of other games tend to use a push your luck mechanic or something like that, so again, it's a really good way to get on board with board gaming basically. It's interesting because it's very much going to be more of a family game. You can tell by the brightly coloured monsters and these big chunky custom dice which have all these different sides on that, yes, you're going to have to learn what they all mean, but they're relatively simple. It also introduces the idea of power cards, so you're going to be drawing different cards if you have enough energy, and then being able to basically improve your odds of being able to kick someone out of the city, or improving your odds of staying in the city. All the cards have different abilities to them that basically are going to change up the way you play, and that's another concept that is really important these days in board gaming. Upgrade cards and things like that are very, very much a part of modern board gaming these days. Okay, so really, they're the 4 games that you're going to be looking at really when you want to really test the waters to see whether this hobby is really for you. But what about all the cool stuff, all the really neat concepts? Okay, let's have a look at some of them. And I want to start with the very big boy of the lot, Gloomhaven, which I'm not actually going to show you. The reason why I'm not going to be showing you this is because it's called a legacy game. Legacy games are basically ones which adapt and change from play session to play session. So in other words, they're kind of a bit more video gamey almost, in that it has a persistent world that you're going to be changing, making unique in your own way, depending on the choices you make in there. There are tons of these out here. It's not just geeky dungeon crawl games with elves and dwarves and things like that. There are other legacy games out there where you can, say, be stopping a plague from spreading across the planet, or there's ones where you're basically a privateer that's trying to just make the most money they possibly can on the open seas. It's a really neat little genre that's picked up steam in the last few years, although there are an awful lot of them out there. It probably should be noted that these games that I'm bringing up right here, these are ones that you probably shouldn't start with. They're a little bit complex and probably could put you off the hobby if you're gonna jump straight into them, because it's not just you, remember, that is learning these games, it's also everyone else you're playing with. Okay, so the next one I want you to have a look at is Betrayal at House on the Hill. It's basically a B-movie horror generator. So what you have in here is you have a book. Well, you've got several books actually. One will be for a traitor character, the other one will be for the survivors. And although this game starts off with you moving around a mansion, exploring it and building it up, it really all comes apparent in the second act of the game that this is a nasty little bugger. You see, one of you, as determined by the game, is a betrayer. And at this point, you open up your books, you find the scenario that's been triggered by it, and all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose in this house. I'm not going to tell you anything about the stories, because again, I kind of want this to be a surprise for you when you go to play it. So, moving on now, the next game I have here is Root. Root is... If you are looking at board games and want to know how nice they are, go no further than Root. Its art design is absolutely fantastic. These little wooden animals are beautiful, and the artwork and the love and care and attention that's gone into this game is brilliant. Now this is typically what you'd call a war game, although some dispute whether it is truly a war game. You're going to be moving across the woodland, you're going to be kicking people out of areas, you're going to be building up your forces, and you're going to be trying to out-strategize one another. It's, again, it has all of the makings of, say, a Risk or something like that. However, it's just got so much more to it than Risk. It's a wonderful game that I really would recommend you try out. Okay, moving on from these kind of things. The next one I want you to have a look at is Food Chain Magnate, where you're going to be building up your own restaurant empire. You're going to be doing this by viciously undercutting your opponents. You're going to be making your food, you're going to be creating demand for it, then you're going to be trying to compete with price in order to bring all those people to your restaurant rather than all the others in the most cutthroat way possible. This one could possibly lose you friends. Another game is Dead of Winter, a zombie game where you're going to be playing cooperatively, but again, like Betrayal at House on the Hill, you're going to have a traitor amongst your midst. However, there might not be a traitor amongst your midst. And the thing is it creates such tension in the game. Basically, you've all got secret objectives again on your cards, and you're going to be doing things that are going to make you look like a traitor, but you're not. And everyone is going to start suspecting you, and it's just so emotionally draining, but in the best possible way. It honestly is, if you're looking for a game with traitor players, I would look no further than Dead of Winter. It's absolutely brilliant. You're going to be struggling for resources because you have to cooperate in order to keep your colony alive. And when everywhere starts running out of food, when you're desperately trying to dig through these locations to find food, and you're just not finding it, it's heartbreaking. What's more is it has one of the nastiest dice in all of gaming. This dice you roll whenever you move, whenever you take an attack, whenever you get certain random events pop up in the game, drawn by this Crossroads deck, which has all kind of extra little story elements to it. You're going to roll it, and not only can you get wounded, you could be picking up frostbite, you might be lucky and nothing will happen. Or you might die. But not only might you die, but everyone that's in the same location on the board as you might die as well, because they're all going to have to roll unless someone makes a sacrifice, and it's just also stressful. But that's part of board gaming. Stress is kind of a part of it that becomes enjoyable after a while. And it's that emotional tie to board games that's just absolutely fantastic, and the fact that you're playing it in the same room as other people makes it feel so much more of a social thing than, say, video gaming, which sometimes can make you feel like you're in your own isolated little world. Okay, let's move on from that. I want to show you something else. Zaya, are you the kind of person that likes board games or video games where you're basically left with this big open sandbox and you're just being told, go and do whatever you want with it? Well, that's what Zaya is. Essentially, you've got this board, and you could choose to be a trader, you could choose to be a pirate, you could choose to just be an explorer, and the game just kind of lets you do it. There's no set way to really play this game, and everyone could be playing different roles and doing different things, and just generally enjoying the experience of being a space pilot in space, and it's just a really nice game. I also want to talk about my favourite game, because I still believe this is a very unique game. Sure, there's games like Detective as well that follow a very similar lines to this, or I've forgotten, it's Murder in Hong Kong or something like that. Mysterium. Essentially, you are all going to be playing on the same side in this game. However, you're going to be playing one of two roles. Either you're going to be a ghost desperately trying to convey information to the other players on the board, or you're going to be a psychic, a medium that's trying to get everyone to guess what the ghost is trying to draw you to. And the ghost is going to do this by playing these abstract cards which have this artwork in that don't give any information other than what's drawn on it. And players have to try and get on the same wavelength as the ghost and try and discern this information in order to find out who ultimately killed the ghost. It's a little bit Cluedo. It's also a little bit like another game called Dixit that's very, very popular, that's simple to play. And in fact, if you're looking at Mysterium and thinking, that sounds like a really cool idea to me, it might be worth going and finding Dixit first and just trying to get to grips with it. The last game I really want to draw you to, because this kind of brings a couple of different worlds together, is Mansions of Madness. Now, Mansions of Madness is based on the literature of H.P. Lovecraft, and is going to see you basically moving through a house, just like as in Betrayal at House on the Hill. However, in this one, the mansion is kind of already predetermined for you. It is being randomly generated, but it's randomly generated through an app. So you're going to almost have video game elements here of an app guiding you through the game and telling you where to go and what enemies appear in the room and what attacks you and how and what you have to do. And there's mysteries in there. There's puzzles. It's a really, really cool little game. And it's one that everyone I know that's played it has enjoyed it. It's just fascinating to have this whole experience where you don't necessarily have someone controlling what's going on the enemy side of things. It's kind of got its own AI that kind of adapts to the game and can throw different things at you every single time you come to play, which really helps with things like replayability. And that's another very important point about these board games. A lot of them really aren't just one and done games. You can go back and you can see new things, or they have variants in their game, so you're not playing the same game over and over and over if people are getting bored of it. It's really indicative to know that board gaming is more than just cardboard and dice, and that these games tell stories. Every single time you play, you're going to be going away and telling other friends, look what happened here. It's just the most amazing thing. What happened last night at the gaming? What did someone do to someone else? It's absolutely brilliant. And if you think that you've had games of Monopoly where you've generated this amazing story about how you outdid them by buying property based on a dice roll round the board, when you actually have these games where you can actually use proper cunning and skill in order to do things to people, that sounds really wrong, but nonetheless it's very much a valid point to make when you're talking about board gaming. Now, I've shown you what board games could be and where's a good place to start from, but I also want to give you a couple of recommendations based on basically where I've run game nights, and I found other games which are a good gateway for people when they come in and play for the first time. Let's go and have a look at them now. Okay, so let's see what we have here. Well, basically, one of the things that I always find is party games, as much as some board gamers will kind of make them the lowest common denominator, they will usually be a really good way of actually introducing someone into the hobby. One of the games I want to highlight is Night Werewolf. As long as you know how to play this, there's a companion app that's absolutely brilliant, and you kind of have to do a bit of explaining in it as to what all the villager roles do. You see, most of you will be playing villagers in One Night Werewolf, but some of you are going to be werewolves. Basically, you're going to be passing out tiles, and certain people are going to be revealed to be werewolves, but they know who one another are, but the villagers do not know who they are. And basically, you're going to have 2.5 minutes of frantic arguing of people saying, I'm not a werewolf, he's a werewolf, and you're throwing around accusations. It basically turns into a witch hunt. And it's just generally really, really good fun. And once you get the idea of it, it is a very simple game to play. Another one I'd really like to highlight is Champions of the Wild. We've talked about this a whole lot on the podcast, and there's good reason for that. It's because basically what you're doing in this is you're arguing, and this seems to be a common theme in party games. You've basically got a group of events that are happening, and you also have a hand of animals. You're going to pick one of those animals, and then you are going to argue to the death why your animal is going to win that event. And it could be things like 100-meter hurdles, or smashing down a shed, or things like that. It's just generally, it's full of really, really good humour. You're going to have fun just yelling over the table at one another. It is absolutely a game I would 100% recommend to people. One more party game I would like to mention before I move on from them is Space Team. There we go, right way round. Space Team, you're going to be trying to build a rocket between you. There's going to be 6 parts to the rocket, and they're going to be buried in a deck of cards that you have. You're also going to have a hand of tools that you can use to fix your problems. The only problem is you may not have the tools to fix your problem. So what you're going to have to do is yell at everyone else and try to get them to pass you the tools you need. The caveat to this is that you can only pass cards to your left and right. It sounds really, really simple on the base of it, but in fact, when you're all yelling at the same time that you need this tool in order to fix this problem, as well as having these events that are going to throw everything off partway through it, it's a rip-roaring good time. We have fun whenever we bring it to the table. It's one of our favourites. Okay, so away from that, what other games would I recommend? Well, it's still kind of a party game, but it's a really good alternative for people that just want to play things like Cards Against Humanity and things like that, which is a bit lowbrow these days and wears quite thin before long. Say Anything is a really good quiz show type game where one person, the judge, just like in Cards Against Humanity, is going to pick a question that they're going to ask everyone. They're all going to answer it on a piece of paper, or you have these neat little boards actually that dry wipe clean, and it comes with pens provided so that you won't get marks all over them. Okay, then what's going to happen is they're all going to write an answer to that question on there, and then the judge is secretly going to pick one that they think is the best answer. Everyone else can then vote on what they think they are going to pick as their answer, and everyone can score points that way. It's a really fun little filler game if you're just looking for something like that just to pass the time. Okay, moving on to something that's a little bit more complex. Treasure Island I want to talk about, just because it's so different. It's really not that complex to play, but again, one of you is probably going to want to know how to play the game beforehand, because one player is probably going to have to know a few rules and things like that in order to be able to get the best out of this game. Essentially what you're going to have is a map, and one person is going to be playing Long John Silver, who gets to choose at the beginning of the game where he's buried his treasure. Everyone else then will get a series of clues over the course of the game to determine where the treasure is. But where this game really comes to life is the fact that you're going to be drawing on this map. You're going to be circling, you're going to be marking off areas of the map where the treasure definitely is not, because you want to find it before everyone else. However, if the person playing as Long John Silver decides to leave partway through the game, jail, like he would do, then, not that he can just walk out, but either way, after so many days, he will escape and he'll head straight for the treasure. If he manages to get there first, he wins and everyone else loses. So the person who's playing on their own really wants to try and use their cunning and things like that to be able to throw everyone off the scent of where it is so he can escape at the end and then go and find the treasure. He rarely ever wins, but, you know. Right, another game. Quadrople S. This is a really simple city building game. It's a really, really neat kind of, you all take a turn, you pick a tile that's available, you put it on your board and you score points before the end. It's a bit SimCity-ish, but it's a really simple version of it. There is an expert mode in the game, which is a little more complex, but the biggest kind of complexity in this game is going to be the scoring at the end. So as long as you kind of play through the game yourself, everyone can have their fun, then you can spend your time at the end trying to score this game and really putting it together. Okay, there is a genre of games that's become really, really popular in the last year or so, which is roll and write games. If you're looking for a really, really famous one of these, you probably would think of Yahtzee. However, I would really recommend Railroad Inc. And the reason why I would really recommend that is because it's very much all picture based. You see, it comes with these dice that have pictures of tracks and roads on it. You're going to be rolling these at the beginning of the round, and everyone has to use what shows on that dice roll. What tracks, what roads they are, you have to draw them on your own little map, and you're going to end up making a network of roads and railways that are going to score you points at the end. It's really simple. I play this game on my own sometimes because it's just so fun, and it's so simple, anyone can learn the rules for them. Probably the first board game of these sorts that I actually played with my parents was Sheriff of Nottingham. A really fun game where you're going to be bluffing basically your way through customs. Either that, or you'll be taking your turn as the Sheriff of Nottingham and you're going to be trying to figure out who's trying to sneak contraband past you. See, at the beginning of a round you have these little bags which you're going to slot in a number of items. These are going to be legal goods like cheese, bread, things like that. However, there are going to be some illegal goods. Some of them are going to be similar to bread and things like that. And you're going to claim to the sheriff as you're trying to pass through, I have this in my bag. And he's going to say either, I believe you, go on in, or no, open that bag and show me what's in there. And if you're going to be caught carrying contraband through there, you're going to be facing a hefty fine from the sheriff. But on the other hand, should he decide to look in your bags and you were absolutely telling the truth about it, then he's going to owe you money. So it's a really good kind of back and forth bluffing game. One that is hilarious fun. Again, it's another game which whenever we bring to the table is guaranteed to bring out laughs. It's really simple to play and really could be a game to get you into this hobby. Okay, a couple more games that I really want to talk to you about, which I probably could recommend is a good starting point. I talked already in a review about Summoner's Isle and how I would use this to teach people about wargaming, and I stand by that. If you're looking for something that's maybe a little more like Risk, most games out there are quite complex and are very rules heavy and difficult to learn. Summoner's Isle is really, really simple. You don't have to worry about movement too much or anything like that. You can place your pieces wherever you want on this board, and then it's about area control, where you want to get into, and holding down 1 point. Again, whoever has the most points at the end of the game wins, and that seems to be a recurring theme here, that a lot of these games that I've been showing you today are going to be very much based around points. There are other games which have conditional victories and losses and things like that, but you know, I could cover them in a future review or something like that. For the meantime, I would really recommend you check out Summoner's Isle. Robbie Munn, the designer of the game, has been tweeting a lot about us online, so we could say there's a little bit of bias there. But I think away from that, I would still really recommend you pick up this game if you're looking to teach those kind of games to people. Okay, finally, the last game I really want to show you is Century Spice Road. Spice Road in particular, you have to be careful because there is another one called Eastern Wonders out there, and there's a new one coming out called New World, I think. And Spice Road is the one to get. It's a little more puzzly. It's kind of, you've got these cubes that represent spices, and you want to be turning those into more valuable spices over the course of the game in order to create sets in order to score points. So this game is very much another set collecting game, but it's a really fun little puzzle as you're trying to figure out how best I can upgrade these cubes I've got from the beginning to get to this, to get to this, to be able to score these points just here. It's really fascinating. It's almost like a Rubik's Cube almost, where you know by making one move you're going to change what you have to in order to move it into the next thing, if that makes any sense. And you're going to be doing this by picking up these cards that allow you to do different actions when you decide to play a card. However, if you want to take a card that you really want, you also have to juggle up the risk of having to put some of your cubes that you already have on cards at the beginning of the queue in order to take the card that you want. So do you want the first card for free, or do you want to move along elsewhere? The rules are really simple, and in fact on two sides of, well, less than A4, and the amount of decision making in it though is amazing. It really is a brain scratcher, but a really simple one at that, and I would really recommend checking that out. The other ones are a bit more complex, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend starting there. However, these games are linked together, which is another really cool feature of board games, that you have these things that are being brought in now, where you can have multiple versions of the same line of game, and they all connect together to make another unique game, kind of like the Transformers, like like robots that join together. I don't know the name of them, but yeah, that's essentially all the games that I'm going to show you. There's one last thing that I want to show you, which is if you decide you want to take up a bit of reading on the subject, I would really recommend the Tabletop Gaming Manual by Matt Thrower. It's a really good read. It's going to have loads of information in there, far more in depth than what I've given you just here, and it's probably a good jumping on point forward from this video. But it also contains like the history of games. It's got a lot of really useful information in there, and yeah, I really would recommend picking that book up if you have like a further interest in this and want to explore a bit more. Finally, I really want to end this on a bit of a somber note, because you see, unfortunately, someone I know recently passed away who was a member of our board game group. They came in as someone who had played poker and things like that, however, wasn't really into board gaming at all, and they sadly passed away recently at the age of 23. From coming along as someone who I didn't know at all, they really got into the hobby. They picked up copies on their own of games like Secret Hitler, and were talking about buying Archipelago, which at the time was a game that was out of print in the UK, and he was going to get it imported from America in order to bring along to the game group. Just a really nice guy that really got into the hobby and is sadly going to be missed by a lot of people. He also, when we jokingly talked about putting together a Yu-Gi-Oh! League in order to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards from when we were younger and stuff, he actually worked up, or was going to college up in Preston, and so was leaving, and gave me a folder filled with Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards. And really, I just wanted to put across the point here, as well as dedicating this video to him. His name was Scott, and I just really want to bring up that this hobby is fantastic for bringing people together. I have really fond memories of playing cockroach poker with him, where he relentlessly pursued Sean, who is a guy in our game group who introduced him to us. And he relentlessly pursued him at cockroach poker to no end at all. It's some really good memories, and I just want to highlight just how this hobby can bring people together in the way that it did. At that, I really hope this video has been helpful to you, and in the future I would like to hear from you as to what games you enjoy playing, where you started, what you've found helpful, and really it's a case of, if you really have found this useful, we do have a Patreon at www.patreon.com/everybodydice. We run like monthly polls so you can decide what games we're going to review. Again, check out our website www.everybodydice.com, because you're going to find our reviews on there, which may give you a better idea of what board games to go to next. If none of these games have appealed to you in terms of theme, I haven't talked about everything I've got here. I've got games about the Tales of the Arabian Nights, games about sewing together a quilt. I've got games about space warfare, horror, street fighting, fantasy, really whatever you can imagine, there's a board game for it. And I promise you there is a board game out there for you that you are going to instantly attach to, that you're going to absolutely adore. You can find us on social media, Twitter at Everybody Dice and Instagram at Everybody Dice Show. And, you know, check us out. Check out our podcast. Hopefully you'll find amusing or useful information there. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye now.